Hello, my name is Wendy Potomsky and I'm the managing partner and owner of Retake Furniture Rentals. Retake is once again a proud supporter of the Canadian Film Festival and is working to contribute to the Canadian film and TV industry by making it an easy and sustainable place to do business. Retake provides sustainable short and long-term furniture rental options to meet production schedules and product needs. Retake also understands the importance of set design and the dynamic nature of the film and TV industry, which is why we created a company to specifically support Canadian filmmakers. Retake can assist you in setting up your production office with sustainable alternatives to keep your team working safely as we all head back to work. We use sustainable approaches to minimize product going to landfill, which means any product supplied by Retake is helping to support the circular economy. Our in-house upholstery services can tailor our product to meet your set design requirements and match your color schemes. Contact us to discuss your office furniture needs. Our goal is to help you get back to work as safely and efficiently as possible. Stay safe, everyone, and enjoy the films and shorts at this year's Canadian Film Festival.
Celebrate Canadian filmmakers on Super Channel Fuse with an exclusive homegrown event.
I'm ready.
Go.
The Canadian Film Fest, presented by Super Channel, brings this year's festival into your home for a second year as a virtual experience.
Goodbye.
Every Thursday, Friday, and Saturday night until April 18th. Enjoy the premieres of indie films and shorts from critically acclaimed and up-and-coming Canadian producers and directors.
And this is where the donkey starts talking.
Immerse yourself in this inspiring and spirited event, both on air and online, with live Facebook Q&A sessions that follow the films.
Makes sense.
Start it.
Experience the Canadian Film Fest, proudly presented by Super Channel.
Good evening, everyone, and welcome to the Canadian Film Fest. Thank you so much for joining our Q&A with our filmmakers this evening. We are going to begin with the First Goodbye team. I'm Ashley Rains, I'm Festival Director, and I'm going to introduce my colleague. I'll let you introduce yourself, actually.
Hi, everyone. My name is Laura Good. I'm one of the programmers with the Canadian Film Festival. Thanks so much for joining us.
And from the First Goodbye, we have Joanna.
I'm Joanna Sanis, and I'm a producer on The First Goodbye, a short film.
Hi, my name is Jessica Pontes, and I am also one of the producers of The First Goodbye.
Congratulations to you all on a great short film. And one of the interesting parts of this short, when we first watched it was filmed entirely during lockdown in COVID. What was that process like? How did you get the idea to make a short film was it over Zoom?
Yeah, it was the directing all took place over Zoom, and cameras were delivered to the actors, and then they would set them up behind their laptops so that they could record themselves while the director saw them over Zoom and could kind of see basically what they were filming, not exactly, but basically. And yeah, I mean, how was the process? It was very complicated, and it was also kind of strange. Like I know that Ali Mashiaki, the director, he said it was kind of a strange experience editing and directing an actor and only seeing like them in close up and only really focusing on the performance in their face. But even though it was a kind of strange experience, we were able to work with people that otherwise we may not have had the chance to, because they live, you know, in Los Angeles. We're based in Toronto. So the silver lining of this was that we were able to bring people kind of from all around the world together for this project, which was really a nice thing to do during a pandemic when it's so hard to collaborate and be creative together.
Mm-hmm. And Jessica, you came up with the concept of the film.
Yeah, along with Ali Mashiaki as well. We were just bouncing off ideas when we were talking about the creatives and what we wanted to do. And like, essentially the film is about obsession, but also about grieving as well, right? I'm sure we all can relate to an instance where a loved one passes and we wish we could bring them back for like 3 minutes, 5 minutes, just to have those last words of exchange or that one question that you didn't get to ask, you know? So.
Could you also tell us a little bit about what the remote casting process looked like? Did you know who you wanted in these roles between yourself and Ali, the director, or was it something that you had to do open calls for over Zoom? What did that look like?
No, we all sort of, Johanna as well, we all collaborated on it. All of these actors are really close friends of ours. So it was a pretty easy guess. We didn't have to like do auditions or anything like that. Yeah.
You knew
And
exactly what the chemistry would be like between all of these different principals.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
and did the actors get to work together then, or were they all filmed separately and then brought together in post?
They were filmed separately and then brought together in post. So we would have readers at some times, and it was what's interesting about it is because in the film, obviously the woman is talking to almost a simulation of a past loved one, and in reality she was also talking to a simulation of a past loved one, because we would use readers or we'd use playback. So it was certainly a unique experience for the actors, but it was great that we were able to work with people who all lived in different parts of the world.
And you talked a little bit about some of the core themes that you wanted to tease out, being obsession and grieving. So those were obviously somewhat, well, I would assume, born out of or influenced by the zeitgeist during which you conceptualized and wrote them. How has it changed the way you look at the film, looking back after this past year, during this time of social distancing, grief, loss, and of course, technological mediation being one of our main ways of communicating? Or has it changed the way you look at it for both of you?
Well, for me, yeah, that definitely like influenced the film and how we created it for sure. And it was for me like born out of that for this short film. Yeah.
And do you feel any differently looking back? Does it have any additional weight or resonance for you now that some time has passed and we've sort of settled into a new way of living our lives?
I don't know, because we've been living this life for like what, a year now. So I'm getting used to it, guys. So yeah.
No.
I do think there are some interesting themes, like how it's kind of changed now that we've become so used to connecting with each other online and on Zoom. So the idea of her reconnecting through this simulation on a screen, it seemed at that point when Jessica and Ali conceptualized the idea, it seemed like kind of so foreign to them and such a strange and surreal element of the story. But now it's kind of how most of us connect, and especially if we have older relatives that we can't connect to in person, and that is how we connect now. So maybe it does change, maybe it does have a change now, but in general, it's I think the core theme is that she's obsessed and she's kind of a toxic person, and she's trying to just squeeze out one last thing out of this relationship, even though it's obviously over.
And here we are in Toronto in lockdown 100. As creatives and filmmakers who, it's, inspiring that this was born from the need to create during the pandemic. Do you foresee continuing to create in this format moving forward? Is this here to stay for you post-COVID, for the duration of the pandemic?
We've actually filmed 3 shorts during in this way. Like one, we actually did a film which we produced from here, but it was shot in Vancouver, and it was done in kind of a found footage horror style of filmmaking, kind of similar to Paranormal Activities, where the actors actually put GoPros on their ceilings and then recorded themselves. So we've done it 3 times now, and we're really happy with the end product. But I mean, there's nothing like being on a set. So I don't want this to be the only way we create. Absolutely not. But it has been a cool experience. And like I said before, the silver lining is, I mean, we're shooting in multiple locations with actors from all over the world. And it's the kind of thing that when you have an indie film budget, it would be really hard to pull that off and bring everyone here. But we were able to do it because of these circumstances.
And do either of you have, or both of you, most challenging or memorable moment that you could pick out from this experience that stood out just because it is so unique? I'd love to give some insight to our viewers.
The whole process was challenging, but it was fun. It was fun, and we had a lot of moments of like, "What are we doing?" But it was great. Joanna led the team like with the whole shooting in isolation and all that. She was great. She was a rock star throughout the whole thing.
Well, it was, thank you, Jessica, but it was like, yeah, there were some technical hiccups.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm sure you can all relate creating a virtual festival, and there's always technical hiccups, and it can get annoying because you just want to go through that process, and Ali wants to be able to direct and connect with the actors, and then when he's in the middle of providing direction and then something glitches or something delays, it can get very aggravating. But once we kind of got over that hump, it was pretty smooth. Like we sort of figured it out.
We got the hang of it for sure.
Yeah.
Great. Well, thank you both and your entire team for sharing your film with the festival and the Canadian Film Fest audience. Congratulations. And we look forward to seeing more of your work.
Thanks. Thanks, guys.
Yeah, thanks for joining us. We'll be right back with the Between Waves team. Stay tuned.
Hi, everyone. Welcome back to the continued Canadian Film Fest Q&A. We're back with the feature team from Between Waves. Please join me in welcoming the film's director, Virginia Abramovic, who's going to introduce her team.
Hello. Hi, I'm here with Alex Jordan, who's the producer for the film, Catherine Andrews, the co-writer for the film, and Luke Robinson, one of our main actors on the film.
Wonderful. Thank you so much to you all for being here. I'm going to start off by asking if you could speak a little bit about the genesis of the inspiration of the film. For you, Virginia, I know it was a long process. We'd love to hear what inspired it and how it came to be. And then I'd love if we could extend that to Alex as the producer, and also Catherine and during the writing process, and Luke in terms of what drew him to the project and how he became involved. But if we could start with you, Virginia, that'd be great.
Sure. So for me, this story was something I've been thinking about for a very long time, maybe like over 10 years, and it changed over time. But it was a story about, it was always going to be this story about a woman that's going through grief, but also going through battling with her, figuring out choices, but also a story about someone potentially struggling with mental illness. And then I wanted to also, my love for the island of São Miguel. So that was also the idea, that it was going to be a story that would be told with the island, filming with the island in mind. And yeah, and then when I really started writing the story was when Catherine Andrews came on board, and we kind of started to write it together. That's
Catherine, do you want to jump in from there?
Sure. Yeah. No, I was. It was one of those lucky things. Virginia and I were introduced through a mutual friend who thought we might both be of interest to each other. And it was one of those great meetings where she was telling me about the project and it sounded so interesting. I mean, I think probably Alex and Luke would say the same thing. The second she's like, we're gonna make this movie on the island in the Azores. I was like, this sounds so cool. So it was great to come on board with Virginia already having the seed of the idea and the concept and the themes she wanted to explore. And then together we could build out the story some more. And we did that over the course of a year, or at least, I think, just meeting once or twice a week. Yeah, to do some writing.
I think it was closer to 2, but
yeah, maybe. Yeah.
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 And Alex, how about you? At what stage did you become involved?
They tricked me. Truthfully, Virginia and the director of photography, the DOP, who is a very good friend of mine and Virginia's, and they came to me and they said, we're really going to make this movie. We really want to do it. And can you mentor it? That's how it was pitched to me. And I said, okay, well, of course I'll help you guys. And then I read it. I'm like, an international film shooting in 2 countries, Portugal and Toronto. And you guys have this much money? And I was like, okay. And they're like, we're doing it. And Virginia's like, I'm going to do it. I'm like, all right, well, I'll mentor you. And what happened was that I was like, I'll mentor you became, oh, I need to produce this movie. So they got lucky. A movie I was on went down and I was able to commit everything to the movie. And of course, I fell in love with the script and everything that Catherine's talking about. Like, yeah, it's cool. It's amazing. It's like, this is what we want to do with our lives as filmmakers when we study it as students and then become filmmakers. We want to travel, make shows, cool ideas. Sci-fi for me is right there. And so I read the script. I gave my notes to Virginia, and I'm a bit of a nerd and a comic book nerd. So I was nerding out on certain things that had to be right. And then, I was like, okay, I guess we're going, like, to the family. I guess we're going to San Miguel. And that's what we did. We went and made the movie. And I had some experience making some super low budget movies in my past. And we just had to figure out how to make that in an international sense. And so I was up for the challenge because my schedule became free and we just went along for the ride, basically.
Amazing. And how about you, Luke? What drew you to the script and how did you become attached?
I got really, really lucky. I was in the right place at the right time. And so actually a friend of mine who was looking to get involved in managing actors got in touch with me, said that he'd gotten me on an audition for a feature film. I was excited at hearing that. So, I just went for it. And then it was really a huge snowball effect. I had no idea what I was getting involved with. But I was so pleased that I did because, like everybody said, it was international filming, a feature film, obviously the largest body of work I had done to date. So I sure just lucked out. I was in the right place in the right time. And, when opportunity comes knocking, say yes.
And Luke, that friend of yours, I went to high school with.
Right, exactly. Small world.
Yeah.
We have a question from the audience, from Paula. She would like to know, what drew you to Portugal as a film location?
Oh, my husband's father's side of the family is from San Miguel. So I've gone there a number of times. And I knew I wanted to film there. That was like a very, and I knew I wanted to tell that story there about, like, because the island is so turbulent and there's so much about the island that is healing and yet kind of pushes you. And so I just thought it was the perfect location to tell this story, but also I love that island.
And you capture that so beautifully visually in the film. Some of that photography and your camera movements are just gorgeous. How long were you there actually to film? Alex said it was this much money. So how long were you there?
we landed on, so Alex actually went ahead of time.
Mhm.
So he was there earlier to set a lot of things up, which was great. And his kids, he went with his wife and his kids, and the kids were like filling sand, because our sandbags, we had to bring everything from Toronto, including sandbags, which we got at Canadian Tire they had zippers.
Yeah.
And he sends me a picture and he goes, my kids joined the grip department. And they were filling up the sand at the beach and making our
Sorry.
sandbags.
Child labor put them right to work. Independent filmmaking.
Yeah,
That's right.
Broke them in right away.
And just to expand on Ashley's point about how it's impossible to talk about this sense of place of this location without talking about the cinematography, how did you and your director of photography arrive at the film's sensibility? Because it is so powerful and it is almost a character in the film, the way that you experience the moving image. And what did that look like? Did you just get out and start capturing, or was it a very methodical process?
Yeah, it took us. So again, lucky for us, because there was no money. We had a lot of time to prep, and Jason Weber is the director of photography. He was available, and the same way that Katie and I wrote, him and I spend time like just hanging out and just like figuring out how we were going to shoot everything. But also the thing that's really important in this film is the transitions. So going from one, like we're not only going from past to present, but we're going from different dimensions, right? So that was like, I think that was really important. The other thing, a choice that we made was we filmed almost everything except for the underwater stuff using a gimbal, the Ronin 2. So Jason wore the camera on him. So he wore about 30 pounds. So the camera, so there's like a whole, like a gimbal rig, and then the camera, and then all the lenses. And he had to work out for that and train, because he knew he was going to have to wear all this. And he literally would wear it. And so it has that. It's really nice. Afterwards, I was like, every film I'm going to make on the Ronin, and you can't. Not every film you can tell that story that way, but so it gave it a really nice momentum, because and a lot of flexibility. Like you didn't have to hit marks. Also, the way that it was lit was using a lot of available light. And because the cameras that are available, like, so the Alexa Mini we used to film.
And Virginia, one of the things that I think that wasn't necessarily, well, it was planned, but it wasn't necessarily part of the design per se, is that the audio man, I told you.
It's you, Alex.
Told you. Go on mute quickly, Luke. Go on mute, quick.
I think it might be you too, Alex.
There we go. See?
Oh, no, you're right.
Producer.
He's a producer.
So one of the things that became magical, and really we wanted to do it, obviously, why wouldn't you, is all the drone photography. And it just so happened that the drone guy that I use on a couple of my television shows, he's also like a sound guy. And so he came and did double duty. He wore all the sound and did sound. And then on a day that we could schedule it properly, him and I went out and did a bunch of drones. So when they were shooting like car stuff and other things. And so we got all this drone photography. And I think even Virginia and Jason got to go out and do drones, but we did like a bunch of drones at that island that we didn't even realize until we got to editorial, that like how much foundation of what that story tells. And when does a micro budget have aerial photography to their disposal on a tropical island? Never. So that's what makes this movie really special. And we didn't sure, we're like, drone photography, of course we're going to go do that. We had a drone like on a 45-degree angle in the wind. We actually dunked it into the waves, had Luke bring a piece from Toronto to rebuild the drone and get it back into flight. And that was the sound guy's drone. Like our crew was 16 people there, you know, like we were a tight crew, documentary size, but feature film people with the lenses on. And I think that really is to your question of like how we were able to capture that island in a way that normally you wouldn't a low budget film on an island wouldn't get to do. And I think that we were able to do that with, you know, technology, time, and, you know, just looking cool.
And I would just add, certainly sound doesn't always get the attention that cinematography does, but it's certainly just as integral, I would say, to those transitions you're mentioning, Virginia, and that sort of seamless ambient flow between time and place that you have in the film is excellent sound design. So shout out to the sound team.
Yeah, that was Kaylee Melito doing the sound design, but also Stephen Cracklow, who's the composer. There's a really nice blending of sound design and composition that happened in the film as well. And that was done afterwards, but it worked out really nicely. And there was a point where they were working together, but also he was taking some of the design and building it into the composition so that you have, and I think we had an excellent mix team as well at Deluxe. They did such a great job where they would take waves and then bring it into the composition and do really, really cool stuff. So yeah, it was a lot of very talented people, and it was just a lot of good energy that came at the right time. Like Luke said, it was like, oh my God, it just happened. It was like a lot of, if I think of like, okay, if we didn't have, you know, let's just say we didn't have Rob with the drone, or Alex got the show that was going to go through. And you know, I think the funniest thing is when you said to me, Alex, you go, my show fell through because they didn't have enough money, and it was $60 million. Remember that number.
I won't mention the director, but he said it was 45 million. He's like, it's not enough money to make this movie. So he walked.
Wow.
It was like, yeah.
Okay, I guess I'll go make a movie for $60,000.
Wow.
Well, that was what it started at. It was more than that, but that's when Virginia and Jason came to me. That's all they had at the time. So it's a little shock to the system.
Yeah, I came to Jason. I said, I have this $60,000, and I go, it's going to be me, you, and a focus puller and a sound person. He's like, okay. If he said no, that's it. I would have been like, okay, forget it. But it's a lot of nutty people, right? That decided to take the plunge.
Yeah.
Well, I think that's true. Like indie spirit filmmaking, everyone wearing multiple hats, pitching in, leaving the ego at the door, and, you know, committing to the creation and the art. So,
yeah.
I'm very grateful. Thank you.
And I also want to shout out to your lead, Fiona, who is fantastic in this film, a phenomenal performance. She was part of the collaboration and the creation of the script, was she not?
Yes. Yeah. Katie, do you want to talk a little bit about that?
Sure, yeah. I mean, Fiona was on the project before I was. I mean, before any of us, I guess. Virginia and Fiona had talked about this concept, and Fiona had started working on the character. So when I came on the project, Virginia had already spent some time developing this character with Fiona. And as we went through drafts, we were lucky enough to be able to send them to Fiona, and she gave us some excellent feedback that I think some of it really, you know, made this outside of the box in a way. And then further down the road, we were able to go to New York, where Fiona lives, and workshop some of her scenes with her in her studio, and then watch her work. Virginia and I were able to do that, and that was very interesting and very important. And yeah, it was great to have her in the process early on, and to be able to write scenes thinking about her, right? It's I mean, I wish we'd had Luke on too, and to think about him, but we did have him in our mind, somebody just like him, and he just materialized again. Yeah, he's the perfect guy for this role. So yeah, that was how Fiona was involved from the very beginning, actually.
And Luke, do you want to maybe jump in and speak to what your chemistry was like working with Fiona? You guys had great on-screen chemistry. and also just to speak a little bit to how you kind of dove into your role or what your process was.
Yeah, sure. So chemistry with Fiona was awesome because I was born in England myself, her being English. We just kind of connected on that. So I spent a lot of time just, goofing around, doing accents and that kind of thing. So I feel like that's more than likely where, we started to connect. And then, as we started to work through the material, work through the script, it felt really cool. It felt really, really natural. You know what I mean? So sorry, what was the second part of the question?
And just what your process was coming to the role more broadly, how you inhabited the character.
So, yeah, I had a lot of help from my director, great director. And the writing was spot on. It was easy for me to kind of pick up Isaac and put him on as wardrobe or as costume and walk around in his shoes because of how it was written. And I mean, in terms of acting, that's what you're doing. You know what I mean? You're bringing a role to life. You're developing a character. But for me, it was really turning to the script and kind of doing a little bit of research and finding out. I mean, he's a quantum physicist. I know very, very little about quantum physics. So, learning a little bit more, very little, but learning a little bit more about that helped me kind of broaden my perspective of who Isaac is, because he's not only a scientist and a physicist, he's also a musician. You know what I mean? So he's got all these different layers to him. And yeah, I would say turning to the script, and bringing him off the pages is more than likely what helped me bring him to life.
Amazing. Awesome. What's next for Between Waves?
Well, we have a release coming. I don't know if we can officially say when it is, but we are working on a American-Canadian release date this summer. And our American friends might put it in theaters. Hopefully us Canadians, maybe. We'll see. But we're looking like maybe a September or August release. So stay tuned.
Amazing. Congratulations. Thank you all for joining us tonight, for sharing your film with us and the Canadian Film Fest audience. It's been our honor to have it as part of the festival this year. And thank you all for joining us in the Q&A too.
Cool. Thank
Great
you. Thanks for watching.
Thank you, everybody. Thank you for having the film.
And thanks for supporting Canada Film Festival, everyone who is watching still. And that's fantastic. Great to all of you guys. Thank you.
Thank you. And for everyone who's watching, the festival continues tomorrow night with the last fill-ins and the short film Acting Out. We have our final industry masterclass on Sunday at 12 p.m. Abby Fettergreen's producing masterclass. You can still register for that. And visit us on canfilmfest.ca to see our lineup next week. Thank you again, everyone, for watching and participating. And we'll see you soon. Good night.
Night.
Bye.